Good afternoon, students. First of all, I'd like to apologize for a slight delay in posting this. I had a very busy couple of days. Um, Thanks again for great discussion. This time, that was E2 visa primarily. The discussion was on both types of E1 and E2, but the E2 is the correct answer. So let's start with why E2 is the correct answer. One uh, point that was very important is that the primary applicant, Salim, is not eligible for any type of e-visa because there is no treaty between the United States and Brazil. So as an alternative, we look at his wife's citizenship, and we see that her country of her dual nationality, Egypt, qualifies her for E2 visa. Why not E1? First of all, there's no E1 treaty between the United States and Egypt. So there are two, countries may have both, or some countries have only one. So Egypt only has one treaty for investment. The other reason why E1 would not be a good choice, because really the business that they are planning to establish is not really trade. It's purely it's clearly an investment, if anything. Yeah, the trade presupposes exchange of either goods or services between two countries. There's no trade here between the United States and Egypt. Okay, so uh, what they would need to do first would be to establish a company in the United States. That company would serve as the investment enterprise for the purposes of E2 visa. In that company, Salima, the wife, has to own at least 50%. She can own more, but she cannot own less. Okay, the so that would be their first step. They can do that. They can accomplish everything that they need to do for setting up the business with B1 visas. Okay, but once the business is established, and once they make the investment, meaning that they buy the properties, then they would have to go back and apply for visas at the consulate, or they can change their status in the United States if that's more convenient for them, and if they are actually here on B1s. They don't have to do that. That's why it's sometimes people do everything through attorneys and agents from abroad. Okay, so let's say the enterprise is established and they applied for visas and they got their visas at the consulate. They can go to the consulate in Brazil. That's perfectly fine, even though the dual Egyptian nationality is the basis for the application. Salima will get an E2 visa as principal applicant. Salim will get an E2 visa as her spouse, and that's even though he doesn't have Egyptian nationality, that clearly is okay. Once they arrive to the United States with their visas, but Salim will have to apply for employment authorization document. That application is fairly simple, and it takes up to 3 months to process it. Once he has the employment authorization document in his hands, he can work legally with Salima and make money and draw salary if they choose to do it that way, or dividends. Um, or if he chooses to do it, like he can work anywhere else, or he can start a different enterprise. So he's free to basically work in any form and shape in the United States, which is a great benefit. Now, the biggest problem with this case and the biggest challenge is to figure out whether what they're trying to do would be considered a proper investment for E2 visa purposes. There are generally real estate investments are problematic that way. As I explained in my comments, just buying real estate and renting it out, if it's just one apartment or two apartments or even four apartments, that's not going to work. That's not enough. It's either rejected based on the passive, either it could be rejected as a passive investment, or it could be rejected as marginal investment, one or the other. It's basically both passive and marginal, because it does not require day-to-day management. It doesn't, you sign rental agreement for several years and you're done, more or less, and then you just have to, deal with day-to-day problems. And marginality is another problem, because the income they'll generate, but will basically just be recovering the investment for many years. And marginality of business is the provision that basically ensures that the business benefits our economy. It could benefit it by either creating a substantial income, substantially more than the family needs to recover their investment and to live to cover their living expenses, or preferably it's by creating jobs. That's always easier to prove. So what would be the solution for this couple if they want to invest in apartments? I would say that it has to be many apartments, and I cannot define you how many how is the many, but it should not be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or even 10. I guess that would be probably not enough. But if they buy an apartment building, for example, and manage all rentals there, and if they create a management company with at least a couple of employees and an office and expenses and a separate business existence, that it could qualify them for E2 visas. They would also have to prove that they will themselves, like not they, but Salima herself will be directly involved in managing and running that business. I would also discuss with them some alternatives. Maybe they would say that maybe investing in commercial real estate is easier for E2 purposes, because that's more like business. That's it's an office building with constant rentals and services. That's clearly a commercial enterprise. Or it could be seasonal rentals, something more like short-term rentals. That's also a commercial enterprise more than passive investment, clearly. So basically the distinction between commercial enterprise and passive investment is the offering of services or product. That's the test. Whether you actually sell something to the public, would be that product, a commodity, or a service. Okay, so that's pretty much all I wanted to tell you about E2 visas. And the last point I wanted to make was to urge all of you to look at today's comments in Gergana's thread, because we discussed something very important, the dual intent for different types of work visas, H-1B, L, O, and E. So that was something very informative, and I suggest that you all read it. I explained the differences there. Thank you very much, and please keep writing on a discussion board if you still have any questions. Thank you. Bye-bye.